In front of me, I have a list of 20 items of pure feedback that will benefit not only Embark, but also you as a player. Everything from ranked, meta, all the way down to a proposed light change that I think you will like. So grab your popcorn, sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. First of all, before we get into anything else, I think it's important to talk about the hot topic of debate, which is the rank system, matchmaking, and the meta as a whole. But it can't go without being said that we are in a better position now in Season 2 than we were prior in Season 1. We've come a long way, and Embark has shown that they care about the player base and that they can be wrong sometimes when it comes to the meta. They're more than willing to admit that and make changes as need be. Season 2 feels and plays much better than what it used to be, especially in ranked when the rank dispersion isn't as wide as what it used to be. Being a diamond, getting queued up with silvers on your team or vice versa is not that common and it's not as wide. However, I and a lot of other people online feel that Embark took a step backwards when it comes to not showing our progression in the rank system. Taking out the ability to see where you are and how your progression in the rank is kind of the whole point of a ranked system. A ranked system exists so that you can know what your place is amongst the rest of the player base. It's kind of a skill check and to compare yourselves with others. That is the entire point of it. If you don't let us see how we're progressing, it makes no sense. It would be the equivalent of shopping on Amazon without knowing the prices of each item. That's how it feels to us, if I can get the point across. I'm a firm believer in knowing your progression in ranked and that being the same, if not very similar to your hidden MMR. And in fact, after recording this video, they came out and said that they realize this and they're working on it. So whatever that might be, please don't let it be a simple up and down arrow. The more detail, the better. Alongside of that is competition, which is something I'm going to talk about in the improvement section of the video. Competition breeds a player base. It keeps people engaged and it gives them a reason to keep grinding. I can't go without saying and admitting the fact that matchmaking is only as good as however many players there are playing at a given time. So let me elaborate on that. Ranked and the ranked experience is directly tied to the matchmaking, which matchmaking is directly tied and correlated to how many players there are in the game. So the better the game is, the higher the player count. The higher the player count, the better the matchmaking experience and therefore ranked will be. Which is why this feedback is so important, leading me into everything good Embark has done with the finals. Now this part of the list, there were actually so many things on here I had to delete things because it was just getting way too long and taking up way too much of the video. So like I said, Embark has definitely proved themselves and I feel now is the best time to give feedback. Hence why I waited all the way through Season 1 and until Season 2 was released to give any of this feedback, because it makes no sense to give the feedback when Season 2 is right around the corner. I mean, everything is set in stone and ready to release anyways. Now is when they're working on the next season and the season after that. This also means that they had plenty of times to prove themselves when it comes to making changes and improving themselves. So as much praise as I'm about to give them in the good section, I won't be holding back in the improvement section. Season 2 was just absolutely fantastic and it still is fantastic. It gave me and a lot of other people so much content to look forward to. I don't think any of us were expecting that much. The marketing of Season 2 was phenomenal, even though they didn't do much yet. The YouTube trailer for Season 2 was sitting at 3 million views at the time of recording this video, which is a massive number regardless of what genre or niche it is. 3 million for a trailer of a season for a video game is a buttload. I think it was in the trending page for like a day or something like that. It just shows that if they were to put more money into the marketing of the game, how much they could accomplish. The new map is spectacular. It looks beautiful. Daytime, nighttime, it doesn't matter. It looks amazing. I'm going to talk about the map because I do have a gripe about that in the improvements. But for now, the art department and everyone who worked on it did a phenomenal job on it, especially the night mode. The night mode just looks fantastic. Weapons and abilities, none of them felt overpowered. They all felt like within their own lane. They all felt usable without shifting up the meta too much. They offer a different option in place of using the AK or the FCAR or whatever else the other option is. In fact, they might even be on the lower end of the weapon balance. I'd rather have it be lower and undertuned than to have it absolutely broken and busted on launch. Although I could see the appeal for YouTube videos and like attracting players for that like Call of Duty does, but that's a different story. 5v5 mode is where I wanted to hang on a little bit more time than anything else, because this mode, I was very skeptical of it going in and I thought it would be absolute hell and chaos because it's 10 people grouped up all around one area. It still is, don't get me wrong, it is very chaotic, but it's manageable, it's doable, and it is very, very freaking fun. I feel that the Powershift game mode can have a longer stay in the menus than what was originally planned. It could have a space in the ranked aspect of the finals, kind of like what Overwatch does, having 2 separate game modes in ranked, and you got to get good at both of them. It doesn't sound like a bad idea. Speaking of not bad ideas, there was a post I saw on Reddit the other day saying that the 5v5 Powershift mode is like prime real estate for having a pirate themed game mode, having the boat thingy kind of like an actual pirate ship with like cannons on the side and so on and so forth. That's an excellent idea, Embark. I think you guys should look into that. More goods that I can't go without mentioning is the speed at which they handled things. Embark was very fast to act on things. We all remember the Rewaza situation, the whole cheater situation. Embark was, I'm not going to say the fastest company to act on this, because it was by a long shot how fast they reacted. Apex, COD, and other companies, even Sony, Microsoft, have had this issue for years before they took any action. And out comes Embark with the finals, and they do something about it within a week. A week, guys. That in itself is well worth the praise. It was so fast that other companies looked at this, like Apex and COD, and they did something very similar, though not as good, because Embark found a perfect middle ground, allowing people to still use these accessibility features while not letting people cheat at the same time. The way they handled this and the speed at which they handled this was bar setting. Something that other companies can look at as well is the way they handled nerfs. In the same way, the way they handled nerfs and buffs to things that the community felt were way too underpowered or overpowered, like nerfs to the nukes multiple times. We all remember how fun and ridiculously broken nukes were at the beginning of the season. They nerfed it multiple times. The FCAR meta, let's not forget that. People running 3 mediums in ranked because that's how broken it was. They acted on that and tried changing that very fast, increasing the Battle Pass progression as well. When the game first came out, it took forever to progress in the Battle Pass. They did something about that, even though they kind of went reverse on that as well. I'll talk about that later. The changes to defibs and the LTMs all just show Embark knows what they're doing. And on top of all that, the cherry on top, it definitely has to be the communication and the listening to the feedback, whether it be on the Discord, which is very active, by the way, not just by players of the finals, but actual community managers and people who work at Embark. The Discord is very active. This is something not many companies do because it takes an enormous amount of time, and I definitely got to be appreciative of that. They even did a live stream with the launch of Season 2. Oscar had a live stream where he was playing the game casually and just talking about it with community members. I think now, before we get into the improvement section of the video where I kindly tear apart the game, now is the time to remind you that if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The finals has been out for months now, and that has given Embark plenty of time to show what they're made of and prove their worth. Because of that, I'm going to be a little bit more blunt in my delivery, especially with things that I feel that should have been fixed a while ago, and other things that I feel that could just better the game overall. So let me start off with what's probably going to be the most controversial feedback that I have to offer, and that is the amount of abilities in the game. I think that it's time to tone down the overall abilities in the game. I mean, if you think of it from this perspective, each team has 3 players. Each player has 4 slots, well, 3 slots if you take out the gun slot, for any random ability that they can equip. This includes nades, mines, grenades, turrets, goo, everything, you name it. That's 3 per person that they could be carrying. So imagine they all had mines or nades and APS turrets. Per person, times that by 3, that's 9. Add an extra slot for their signature ability, that's 12 abilities that could be at play at any given time. And when you consider the fact that most of the engagements, especially around ranked, are enclosed in a tiny environment because it's usually in a building, when you want to take over a site or you want to take over a cash out, you first have to deal with an onslaught of abilities before you can even touch another person. This, I feel, is a huge turnoff for new players who view the game as a first-person shooter, but then when they go to an engagement, they go to take over a cash out, they're faced with this absolute horde of random abilities. They have no idea what's going on. It can get overwhelming and be a huge turnoff for them, which bringing in new players is a vital part of a game's success. That could possibly be the reason why we saw a huge spike of people playing the game at launch, but then it quickly just fell off and it didn't hold those numbers. A perfect example of this is Valorant, and I'm going to bring up Valorant and Riot a lot during this because I feel Riot is the best when it comes to balancing abilities in a game. There's this famous clip, and in fact I'll try to put it up on screen. It's a clip of a VCT tournament, live people playing at LAN with an audience and everything. There's casters. One team is attacking, the other is defending a site. When it comes to execution time, 9 ultimate abilities go off at the same time, and it led to an absolute cluster truck of what was this scene. Nobody understood what was going on. The casters were lost. Players were like beyond, they were in a different game. They thought they were playing League of Legends. Viewers of this were absolutely lost. Not just new people who had no idea what was going on. People who played the game like me, I played since beta, had a tough time processing and keeping track of what was going on. This is a very famous clip, and it led to Riot eventually nerfing ultimate abilities, which, if you don't know, ultimate abilities are abilities that you gain over time, and you can only use them roughly 3 times per half. They're not that common now, but it eventually led to Riot nerfing them, so people, instead of using them 4 times per half, now can only use them 2-3 times per half. This onslaught of ultimate abilities were nerfed twice within the past year. I personally think that it's time to just tone down the overall ability usage in the game. I don't know the optimal way of doing this. You guys have the numbers, I don't, whether it be reducing the ability slots from 3 to 2, or just having one specific slot for only nades or that type of thing, and the others can be whatever. It could be handled and managed in many different ways and could definitely improve the new player experience. This is why I said that this is probably the most controversial take that I have, so I want to hear your guys' opinions on it. Go down below in the comments and let me know what you think. Is it a good idea? Is it not? Do you have a better solution? And while you're there, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Dude, I am losing my voice. I apologize if my voice is off. I'm fasting right now, so I can't drink water, and my mouth is just dry from talking for the past 40 minutes. Moving on, I watched a lot of streamers and content creators when they had early access to the game, which by the way, I was upset I didn't get invited. But regardless, I noticed that some of the Embark employees who were in those matches were on the Arc Raiders side of things, which is totally fine, but that reminded me that Arc Raiders is their main game. That's their main focus. In fact, according to Level Cap Gaming, I think it was, the finals was just a game mode that they were experimenting with, they were playing around with, and it ended up being very fun to play, so they decided to make a whole game out of it, which led to an incredibly successful game. It's awesome, but I remember that this isn't their main focus. Arc Raiders is their main focus, and I think it's now time. Not that Embark hasn't been focusing on this game, because they definitely have, and I said that earlier, but I think it's time to put a little bit more investment into the game. Not just in terms of money and marketing, because that's the obvious big talk of the town. We're all waiting for that marketing budget to kick in from Nexon, right? But it's time to invest into streamers and content creators. Anytime I've been to the finals Twitch page, the category, and I checked how many viewers there are in that category, it's always been very low. No matter the player count, it's still very low respectively to other categories. I feel like a lot more could be done to get content creators to play the game. More content creators playing the game means more people seeing that game, and more people seeing their favorite content creator play the game makes them want to play it as well. This could be done in many ways, not just Twitch drops or like sponsor streams, because I know those are expensive, but Twitch Rivals is one that's mentioned a lot. There's also the idea that I had of live tournaments, either it could be LAN or just online, with real cash rewards, i.e. however much you extract or pull out from the cash station, that's how much you get in real life. I could imagine tournaments like that with real money on the line. Whatever they're fighting for in the VR world, it fits the lore. Whatever they're fighting for and trying to defend, they're also trying to defend in real life. They get that money as well. That could make for such an engaging tournament and live viewership. It could bring a lot of eyeballs. I am 100% sure that this is an original idea and that Embark has thought of this long before. Invest into streamers, invest into content creators. I don't stream yet, but I would be more than willing to participate in an event like this with other content creators if such a thing was put together. Matchmaking and ranked, I talked about this earlier, so I'm going to briefly glaze over it, though I do have one other thing to say besides the progression that I talked about earlier, which, by the way, they are working on. They've confirmed this. They're working on the progression to show us something like the fame points. Embark has always been focused on the gameplay and the fun aspect of the game first, and then the ranked and the competitive scene afterwards. That's not a primary focus for them yet. I think now is the time to slowly start shifting that attention to the competitive side of the finals, because we've played it, we've experienced it for the first time over. I wish we could all do it again, but that honeymoon phase of the game for us is, for the most part, over. A player needs a reason to come back to the game, and that usually comes in the form of competition. A reason to grind. The rank rewards in the first place are awesome. They look great. We have a great incentive to play ranked. Ranked just needs to be better. And I feel like other people who are more experienced and have more knowledge on this aspect have talked about this in better ways than I can. So I suggest looking other finals content creators for input and advice on this topic. Okay, let's talk about the SA-12 shotgun. I have this on my list right here. It was nerfed the other day, so it's hard to tell if it's enough or not. But the meta in general and as a whole is more what I want to talk about. People don't realize that there are two forms to the game. There's the casual side, and then there's the ranked side. It is very hard to balance both sides at the same time, especially for an arena shooter like the finals that offer a different experience for both casual and ranked. Unlike Valorant, where the casual experience is a basically warm-up and is very similar to the ranked experience, so matchmaking and balancing both sides is relatively similar in the same. In the finals, it's completely different. Getting nuked is not that big of an occurrence in casual mode. People usually just play medium or light just to have fun. The ranked side of the finals is completely different, so balancing that out is very difficult. This is probably something I should have included in the good side of the video, but I do realize that a majority of the player base and people online feel that the meta is kind of wonky currently. I feel, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, I feel like the meta is totally fine as is. I realize that the player base feels that it's wonky right now, and I put this in here specifically so that Embark can realize the same. The shoddy is very strong. Lights have almost no presence in rank, which I have a proposed change to. Overall, the meta is much better than what it used to be, but it's still not there. New content, this one really pissed me off, and it frustrated me because I am trying to make content on the new map. I'm trying to gather footage, so on and so forth, but I couldn't queue into the new map for the life of me. The entire second day, almost 0 matches played in that new map. It was frustrating so much that I spent like 30 minutes backing in and out of matches just to find a new map, and I couldn't. For the life of me, I couldn't find the new map. This is one of those things that I'm not going to hold back on. Embark, you should have gave us a better way to play the new map. Either do it the way that Valorant does it, where there's a dedicated playlist to that specific map so that people can learn the map and play it and enjoy it and get their content and do whatever. Or I understand that the player count might not be as high as Valorant's. You could also do their other tactic where they increase the percentage of pick rate for that map in the regular map pool. You don't have to change it for rank because I understand the implications of that. In fact, Valorant doesn't even let you play that new map in the ranked mode. That's another option to look into. This whole situation for the new map could have been handled better, but I understand it's their first game. However, it's not their first new map. That's why I'm not holding back. You guys have released a new map before and same thing happened. Give us a way to enjoy the new map that you guys have put so much time into. That's what we're there for. What I was going to say about the 5v5 mode kind of got canceled out with today's patch because they added more jump pads to get around the map and get up on top of the boat. If you're heavy, you're basically stuck on the ground until the boat comes down, or if you're one of your teammates lays down a jump pad for you. So that's good, and basically just shows again how fast they are in reacting to these kind of things. The battle pass, on the other hand, is kind of on the same level of we took a step in the wrong direction again. I saw a couple people online, in fact the one that comes to mind was Who'sful in the comments, and Miles Gaming I think it was. They posted in the comments that the battle pass is slow to progress without the circuit. Basically, you took out any match XP that would have incentivized us to play and complete the game, especially if we're in casual. You just completely took that out and stripped that away from us and replaced it with this circuit mode, which I think is pretty decent. It's a cool way of drip feeding us some content and giving us something to look forward to every week. It's a good idea, but the battle pass progresses slow without the circuit. If you're not doing them, or if you finish them all, it just goes very slow. The battle pass in general just progresses kind of slow in my opinion, but on the bright side, and I didn't put this up in the good because I want to talk about it here, there is so much good free stuff in the battle pass. Like, I gotta hand it to them. There's a lot of good free stuff, and on top of that, I think if you finish 2 battle passes, you basically get enough VR or whatever to buy the next battle pass, which is awesome. That's not something that every company does, and I really commend them for that, especially being a cheap person like me. Next inconvenience that I'm not going to hold back on because this should have been changed a while ago. The UI elements, dude, they are massive, and we're not newbies. We played this game for a while. Give like people, advanced players, a way to either shrink the size of them and also make them transparent. if we're looking at the UI element, I don't want to see the UI element, especially I don't want to see the UI element in front of an enemy. There have been so many times where I'm taking an engagement towards an objective, which is a very common occurrence because like the people are on the objective. I'm going to be looking that way. I'm taking this fight, but I can't see them because of the UI element. There's a giant letter A just blocking my vision of the enemy, giving him an unfair advantage towards me. And in fact, it's so much of an inconvenience that it literally affects the way that I approach objectives. I know that this is a problem, so I try to play around it. I don't take these engagements head on looking towards the objective. I will either go towards this side and take the fight that way, or I'll just get on site. This should have been fixed and changed a while ago, and with somewhat of a coding background myself, I know it's not that hard to implement. Cheaters, all I'm going to say about this is that I myself haven't run into many cheaters myself, maybe 1 or 2 in the past month that I know for sure were cheating, but I know other people don't share the same experience as me, especially since I play casual. Just what I'm going to say about this and the feedback I'm going to give to Embark, just reassure us that the anti-cheat system is working, reassure us that it's safe, especially after all the recent Apex drama that's going on with all the hacking going on and the live thing. I didn't feel safe launching Apex Legends or Titanfall, and since the finals uses easy anti-cheat, it would be nice to be reassured that the game and the anti-cheat system is totally safe. By the way, for those of you wondering, after recording this video, easy anti-cheat came out and said that it has nothing to do with them, so we should be safe on that aspect at least, but it still would be nice to get some kind of reassurance. Here's something that's been talked about a little bit, especially on the people who take this game a little bit more competitively, and that's the Cashouts still reward people who just attack at the very last second. If you hold the cash out for 50 seconds and the team comes in and steals it last second, you get nothing. You're not incentivized to hold the cash out whatsoever, other than the fact that you have peeker's advantage. Basically, you're just sitting on the cash out, you have a chance to set up things. It's kind of like Rainbow Six, how defenders have a chance to set up defenses and stuff. It's fine if that's kind of the gameplay style that you guys are going after as a company, but you guys got to keep in mind that it literally makes no sense for us to hold a cash out that long. It's better to just attack a cash out last second with the entire team and just overwhelm the people defending it. Next is a personal gripe of mine, especially since I just recently played Titanfall 2, and going to that movement in that game, seeing how it differs in this game, it really spoiled me, but it got me thinking that the movement in this game could be much better. I'm not saying make it wild because that will be a huge turnoff for new players. It's kind of the reason why it's hard to get back into Titanfall 2. You don't want to make movement so advanced that it's harder for new players to come in, but you need to give them a reason to learn. It needs to be a little bit of a skill ceiling, and the way to do this, I think, is to allow us to slide in any direction. Currently, you can only slide in one direction. You can't go left, you can't go right, you can't go backwards. If you don't want to allow us to go left and right, I understand that. That's a little bit of a slippery slope, unintended, but allow us to slide backwards. What it would look like is kind of what Apex Legends has, or Titanfall 2, where you can jump as long as you have some sort of momentum. You hit the crouch button in midair, you slide in that direction that you're going. So if I jump left or if I jump backwards, I can still slide in that direction. Now, I understand if you don't want to make it as fast as Apex Legends or Titanfall. In fact, you shouldn't, because it is a massive turnoff for new players, but you should still allow us to slide in any direction, and it would do a lot for movement, just not as fast. I understand that. Another giant nerf to mobility is also the bloom mid-air. Whenever you're shooting, I noticed this especially with the FAMAS recently, whenever you're shooting that mid-air, the bullets go to freaking Narnia. This is really annoying, and especially evident whenever you're playing the sniper light class. You're usually using a grappler hook to snipe mid-air, right? Well, guess what? There is massive RNG in that as well, because the bloom affects you mid-air. The bullets do not go to where your crosshair is pointing. It's either that or the crosshair is off center. Whatever that is, if it's that crosshair issue that still exists, where the bullets just go center of your screen and not where your crosshair is aiming, or if it's bloom while you're midair, whichever one of those it is, I think that needs to get out of the game. Whenever you're aiming down sights, there should be no RNG involved. I mean, recoil, sure, but RNG, no. I don't think that has a spot, like, at all. This next section probably should have went into when I was talking about the meta, but the light class in general just needs some love, I think. The light class is fun to play in casual, but it literally has no place in rank. The way I see it, and I'm not going to offer any fixes because it's completely up to you guys, the Embark, how you want the game to play out. I understand that, so I'm not going to impose like, oh, I think this is what it should be, but the way I see it is that the light class is basically just a nerf to the player. Whoever's using the light class is nerfing themselves to sacrifice survivability for fun. That's the way I see it. The light class has the most fun abilities. The evasive dash, in my opinion, is the most fun thing to do in the game, but you don't survive long enough. If you take a fight head on with any other class, you're basically dead. Whether you guys want to increase their damage output or you want to increase their health, whatever it is, or maybe you don't even think the light class is a problem. Maybe the light class is just supposed to be that way. That's totally fine as well. However you guys want to see the game played, you do you. But in my eyes and a lot of other people's eyes, the light class is just a nerf to you, and you're sacrificing survivability for the fun aspect, which leads to it not being picked at all in rank. There's just so many other better options, and the strategy of going about nerfing every other ability, every other class in the game just to bring it down to the level of where the light is at is not a good option in my eyes. I said I wasn't going to propose any like you guys should do this, you guys should do that, but I do have one idea that I can't go without saying, and that's how do you fix the light? So how do you fix the light? Well, I laid it all out with this proposed ability, so when the video is out, make sure to go check out this one next.